Theological Pipe.
I've been expecting you.
There is a God, and
I speak German.
I'm not him.
The cardiac Cowboys are for real, and I don't mean necessarily for real in that they're going to contend for anything this year, just meaning that they continue to give me heart attacks. And when I talk about the cardiac Cowboys, I'm talking about the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So welcome to another edition of Theological Pipe. This will be Sports Pipe.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Theological Sports.
I don't believe what I just saw.
We're going to talk about some Big 12 football, focusing on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, but also talking about the Sooners, the conference in general. I've said before that on Theological Pipe we discuss everything from politics and current events and culture and sports. And I've said before, sports is a gift. And I am so happy that college football is back. I'm so excited that they're playing in front of packed houses and people are cheering. We've had some great games, some upsets. I'm a Oklahoma State alum, love the Cowboys. I have been a fan since 1988 when I went, that was my freshman year. So I got to see some of the highest highs of Oklahoma State football and some of the lowest lows. In 1988, Barry Sanders, the GOAT, the greatest running back of all time. And if he's not the greatest, he is one of the greatest, top three. And I think you can make a debate that he's the best. He was incredible. So I was there for his Heisman Trophy campaign. Saw every home game that year. I think the Cowboys, they finished 10-2 that year. The next year they were on probation and they didn't win a game. And we suffered some really lean years, had a little slight bump when Bob Simmons became the coach. Went through some more lean years. Then finally Mike Gundy took over, and Mike Gundy is the best coach that Oklahoma State has had. And they've had some highs, they've had some bad luck. They can't beat the Sooners. They played a game this couple days ago on Saturday. They played Boise State in Boise, and I think it's 92-10 or 94-10 or 96-10, something like that. Boise's record at home, a non-conference, was just like ridiculously great. It was really like 96. Let's just use 96-10 to make it sound better. Let's use 92-10. We can look it up later. You can look it up. They were 92-10, 92 wins, 10 losses. Oklahoma State goes to Boise State. The first two games that the Cowboys have played this year have not been good. In fact, they've been downright ugly. They struggled against two teams they probably shouldn't have struggled against. Now, the Tulsa victory looks a little bit better, seeing how Tulsa played Ohio State in Ohio State this past Saturday, but Oklahoma State just hasn't looked good. They haven't looked good offensively. Their defense is good, which is a surprise and a welcome surprise. But they went to Boise State, and I wasn't very confident, again, because Boise State's a fairly decent team. I'm not going to say they're a great team, but they're a good team. They're really good at home. Oklahoma State hasn't played well. And when the game started, I was at a cigar bar with my buddy, and I really thought we would be leaving by halftime the way it started. The offense just didn't look good. We weren't doing anything. Luckily, we kind of held them a little bit. They scored 20 points. It was 21-20 at halftime. Somehow the Cowboys were ahead. They had a really good performance from Jalen Warren. He was a transfer from Utah State. The Cowboys were up 21-20, and they won 21-20. Their defense played incredible in the second half, and I was just shocked that the Cowboys won. And so to go into Boise and to win is great, no matter how it looked. It was still a little ugly. Again, defense looks really good. The running game finally showed up. I don't know that Spencer Sanders is an answer at quarterback. He seems to have gotten, I don't want to say worse. I don't think he was really ever great. He showed flashes, but there's not been a steady progression at the quarterback position that you'd like to see. And again, maybe it's early. He was out with COVID for a week or so, but I don't think that's an excuse after another week of preparation. So to come away with a victory is really good for the Cowboys. And if you followed the Cowboys, if you know the Big 12, you know that the Cowboys always play right to their competition. They're always in nail-biter games. They never have blowouts anymore. I can never sit back and just relax and be like, this is going to be a great time to smoke a cigar, watch some football, just relax knowing that we're going to win. We don't have that anymore. Haven't had it in quite a while. I don't know if it's a coaching thing or a talent thing, but hey, they're 3-0, and that's something to be excited about if you're a Cowboy fan. The Cowboys are 3-0. They open up Big 12 play this week against Kansas State, so I hope that it'll be a good game. It's in Stillwater. If they can win that will be a huge win. But again, I'm not holding out a lot of hope, which is a shame, because if I want to dive a little bit into the Big 12, the reason it's a shame, and the reason that as a Cowboy fan I'm somewhat disappointed over the past, let's just use decade. The Cowboys are always going to be little brother to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is one of the premier football schools in the country. They have been since their founding, and we have a lot of work to do to even get close to, they have national titles, we don't. They have conference titles, we have one. But the issue or the problem I have is there's been a window of opportunity, because the Big 12 is trash. It's a bad league. It's not good. Texas is no good. And in the past, if you go back 15 years ago or at the beginning of the Big 12, you had some really good teams, and even the second-tier teams were really good and can beat anyone on any given day, and the conference, I think, was in the heyday. But ever since Texas has just become, they always say every year, Texas is back. No, Texas is Texas, and they're mediocre. Texas is Texas, they're mediocre. Texas Tech is not great, or not even, I wouldn't even say they're good. Oklahoma State, that's the problem, is they've had such an opportunity to vault themselves into an upper tier team in the Big 12 with Oklahoma, and they haven't done it. They haven't taken advantages. They've caught some unfortunate breaks, times that they've played the Sooners where they probably could have won, they didn't, and they just haven't taken that step to be one of the premier teams in the Big 12, which is getting ready to end anyway, but they could be one of those premier teams in the Big 12, and they're not. And it's unfortunate, because the Big 12 is now ending. Oklahoma and Texas are leaving, and they're leaving for money. I don't care what anyone says. If people say, hey, they're leaving so they can win more national titles, well, Texas won a national title, 15 years ago? Oklahoma's was 21 years ago. They're not winning national titles now, and they're going to go to a much, much, much tougher conference and think they're going to compete. Now, they will eventually compete. They have the facilities. They have their tradition. They have the money. They're going to make more money by being in the SEC, but that's why they're moving. It's a money thing. This name, image, and likeness stuff is moving. And the disappointing part for me as an Oklahoma State fan, as I watch them play and see them not be as good as they were in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, when they had superstars across the board and all Big 12 performers and Biletnikoff winners and running backs that are in the NFL. I just don't see that right now with the talent at Oklahoma State. And again, I don't know what it is, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that they just take off in conference play. But my concern for the Cowboys is the Big 12 seems like, at least right now, that they're still going to be alive. They're inviting other schools like BYU and Cincinnati. They're going to have actual 12-team conference, so the Big 12 is going to be an actual 12-team conference, which always bugs me. It's one of my pet peeves when it comes to like the Big 10, but they have 11 teams. The Big 12, but they have 8 teams. Or it just blows my mind. And these are higher education. I mean, just change the name of the conference. I get it, licensing and all that stuff. But the Big 12 will have 12 teams. Again, not going to be nowhere near the conference that the Big 12 is, because when you lose Oklahoma, who is, again, a blue blood and who dominates the Big 12. And when you lose Texas, for as bad and mediocre as they've been, they're still the richest, tradition-rich school. You're losing the two best teams, the two biggest names of the conference. My concern or my fear, I have a fear and a hope. My fear is Oklahoma State's going to continue to be Oklahoma State that they've been over the past 3 or 4 years. Mediocre, eke out some wins that they probably shouldn't win, lose some games they shouldn't lose. They're going to go to a bowl game. Fans will be somewhat happy because we're going to bowl games, and they remember back in the day when we were winning 0 games or 2 games. But again, there's such an opportunity for the Cowboys when the Big 12, and I'm going to assume that the conferences are going to, make their payouts and have the leagues and the teams be okay. So OU and Texas will be playing an SEC schedule next year, and those other teams will come to the Big 12. Oklahoma State has another golden opportunity here to be the dominant team in this Big 12. They just do. My concern is that they're not going to be. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong. I'm going to ride and die with them anyway. Go Pokes all the time. Again, went to school there. I bleed orange. And again, I love sports. I love the distraction that it is. I love that for a few hours, and actually for quite a few hours on Sunday, not just watching the Cowboys, I watch the Sooners, and I watch Big 12 games. I watch the top 25 games. I'm basically from 11 o'clock to the time I go to bed, I'm basically watching football on Saturday. I'm a pastor of a church, and I prepare lessons on Saturday too. So as I'm finishing up my lessons and putting everything in order, I have football playing. So it's kind of a double-edged gift from God to allow me to be able to have time to study, but also to watch football. But I hope the Cowboys take that next step up. Now, they've had a couple of good recruiting classes. I think this year and last year are shaping up better than they normally have. They're normally ranked in the 40, 50 range. I think they're now up in the top 20. So it looks like they're getting some good recruits. So I hope that with this change in conference stuff, it doesn't affect them. And I hope that they can move forward and be the class of the new Big 12. And how cool would it be for them? I think they're probably going to expand the playoffs. And if Oklahoma State can win the conference sometimes, they've got a playoff berth. And if they could do that, then maybe they can do some damage. And I really hope that happens. And I think it would be, I don't say ironic or funny, but I would love it as a Cowboy fan if Oklahoma State plays in a national title game or wins a national title before Oklahoma does because of the conference switch. And it's not as far-fetched as I know it is, because it's the Cowboys, and I'm one of those, I'm an optimistic fan. I'm not like someone that's down on the Cowboys all the time, but I get frustrated with them, and I think there's such opportunities that they're missing for whatever reason. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, especially if you've watched the Sooners play this year. The Sooners have been almost as disappointing as the Cowboys. They had a horrible opening game against Tulane, who got destroyed by Mississippi State. So they played Tulane, and Tulane could have beat them, might have been able to beat them. They played I don't even remember who they played in the second game. They destroyed them. But then in the game they played this past Saturday, they played Nebraska. Nebraska's a bad football team. I know Nebraska has that cachet with that name, but Nebraska is a bad football team. And I want to say that again. They're a bad football team, and they, despite missing a couple field goals, having an extra point blocked and taken back for 2 points, and penalties like 80 yards, 100 yards of penalties, they still had an opportunity to beat the Sooners or tie the Sooners. It was the Sooners are not playing good. I think they're still ranked number 3, but they're just playing really poorly. Now, again, the good news for the Sooners is, so what? They play in the Big 12. There's no one in the Big 12 that has the talent or the coaching that the Sooners do. So there's a real possibility the Sooners are gonna run the table in the Big 12, be undefeated. The Sooners are usually good to lose one game that they're not supposed to, but they'll probably lose a game. If they do, they're going to win the Big 12 title. They'll probably be in the college football playoffs again, and then probably get beat by Georgia, Alabama. To me, those are probably the 2 best teams right now, Alabama and Georgia. And Florida looks pretty good. And there's a couple other teams too. There's other teams that are playing really well. Penn State looks good. Michigan looks good, et cetera, et cetera. There's some good teams. It'll all play out. But again, Oklahoma doesn't look that great. And to think that this Oklahoma team that you see now, and next year Spencer Rattler will probably go pro and be drafted. So this Oklahoma team, who's struggling with not very good teams in Nebraska and Tulane, and will probably lose a game in the Big 12. maybe 2, but I think 1 is probably their limit. They're going to move to the SEC, where the competition, again, is much tougher, where the competition is much greater. And there's a real possibility that they don't win an SEC title. And if you made odds and say, who do you think is going to win a conference title when the conferences switch, assuming it's next year, do you think Oklahoma has a better chance at winning an SEC title, or Oklahoma State has a better chance of winning a Big 12 title? Who's going to do it first? It's not crazy to say Oklahoma State has a better chance. Again, because Alabama's not going anywhere, Florida's not going anywhere. There's a lot of other teams in the SEC that are really good, and OU's going to have to play them. And again, I'm not saying OU's not going to win a national title again. Of course they are. I'm not saying they're going to be bad in the SEC. They're not going to be bad. They're going to be good. They're Oklahoma. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that Oklahoma State might win a conference title before Oklahoma does after this year. Now, this year, again, I think Oklahoma's going to win the Big 12. And if that's the case, Oklahoma State has a shot to win a national title. Wouldn't it be amazing? And again, I don't think they're going to, but wouldn't it be amazing if Oklahoma State were to win a national title before OU won their next national title? Oklahoma State wins their first national title. I know they have that fake one, but they win a legit national title before OU does. That would be unreal. Again, not saying it's going to happen, but the fact that I can say that and not be like, well, there's a possibility. A lot has to change. Again, Oklahoma State has to make that step to be the Oklahoma of the new Big 12. And they can do it. They've shown that they can get the talent. They've shown that they can get good coaches there. They just have to do it. And I hope that they take this opportunity and seize it. So just excited. Again, I'm so excited about college football. I love watching it. I love the fact that every Saturday I can just kind of forget about stuff. I can forget about politics, which I haven't talked about a whole lot here on Theological Pipe in a while, and probably won't. I wasn't a huge fan of Donald Trump, and I know the people that didn't like him thought he was just everything negative. Well, everything that they thought Trump was, Biden is, and sometimes even worse. When you look at the border, when you look at Afghanistan, when you look at droning and killing 7 kids and then kind of pretending that because he feels bad it's okay. You look at all the way he's handled COVID, some of the authoritarian stuff that he's doing. He is everything that one group complained about one side is now reversed, and politics just bores me. So I thank God for sports. I thank God for music. I thank God for these other things that I can talk about and focus on. Again, this is, I guess, my Big 12 wrap-up. Oklahoma State. I talked Oklahoma. Talked a little bit about Texas. So, just excited for football, excited for the Big 12. I'm going to try. I don't know if I'll be able to do it or stick to it, but maybe every week do a little recap of Big 12 football and then football in general. Again, I think Alabama is your national title favorite, and I'll say this: they're probably the favorite next year too, and the year after that. And I think until Nick Saban retires, Alabama's just a machine. And I know they had a pretty tough game, a close game with Florida, but Alabama is a machine. So I'm picking them to win the national title. But again, I hope there's major surprises. I hope the Cowboys just surprise me and at least make a little bit of noise in the Big 12. I think they'll win some games. I think they'll win some close games. They're probably going to lose some games that I'll get mad about. And again, I think that, the Sooners are going to win the Big 12. But we'll see. I think after this first couple weeks, there's some pretty decent games in the Big 12. We'll get a little bit better idea of, is Oklahoma just going to roll through the Big 12 like they normally do, even though they had some hiccups? They didn't lose, but they had some questionable games in the non-conference. Is Oklahoma State going to figure out things offensively? What about Texas? They seem to be playing a little bit better, but again, they've lost, and they got destroyed by Arkansas, which was a bad loss. So again, just love sports, love football, love college football, excited about it. Probably have talked too long about it for this, but that's okay. So again, I'll probably do this once a week, once every couple weeks, talk about Big 12 football, and maybe even throw in a little Seahawks football, who lost. I'm kind of disappointed about that. But anyway, sports is a gift. Thank God for college football. Put that in your theological pipe, put that in your sports pipe, and smoke it. We'll see you next time.
Well, bye.